This is the Reds Down Under podcast, the best place to follow the Reds in Australia. Enjoy the show.
We are the Reds Down Under, and this is our podcast.
Welcome to Reds Down Under, your Liverpool fan podcast here in Australia. Reds, how are we doing? We're 13 points clear at the top of the Premier League. And after that win after Newcastle. And I think it's done. I think it's absolutely done. If you're going to Liverpool for the end of the season, book your flights now. Get them booked in, because it's going to be an absolute party in Liverpool. They reckon there's going to be 1 million people on the streets of Liverpool for the party. And we're sort of owed a trophy parade, aren't we, for what happened during COVID. So as I say, this is your place for anyone in Australia. You want to talk about the Reds, listen about the Reds, this is the place for you. Before we get going, thank you so much again for all of your support so far. This is the second episode of the pod, and loads of great feedback after the first episode. Some people like the plants in the background, some people don't. Some people like them, some people don't. I quite like them, but the idea is eventually we're going to have a big banner, which is the logo, which Courtney made us, so thank you, Courtney, and it's going to say Reds Down Under, and it's going to be like a proper banner at the match. Thank you for George Sefton, the voice of Anfield, 54 years at Anfield. He did our intro, and Royal MG, who did our song. Jack's not here this week. He's meant to be going to Brisbane, but they've got a bit of a cyclone happening. Stay safe if you're up there. And thank you to Magic Box, who are our production partner, and to be honest, we just wouldn't have got this off the ground without them. They're a business that help organisations, businesses, big, small, medium, pull everything together, organise themselves, and put everything in one spot so they can save time and money. It's great software. I've had to play with it myself, and thank you so much to Magic Box. Reds, when will we win the league? That is the question that everyone is asking. I can see a bit of excitement for people that we could potentially get a guard of honour from Arsenal at Anfield, which would be amazing. I seen something, you've probably already seen it, but it was saying what formation is Arteta going to play at Anfield, and I think it said, 2 bags of 5 on either side of the touchline as the Reds are coming out. I think that Arsenal will focus on the Champions League as much as they can, and I think that will just open the door up to get this done as soon as possible for Liverpool. I think that it's a big opportunity for us to look at rotating the team. I think if you can give Kwanzaa some minutes, for example, that'd be perfect. If you can get Curtis Jones in the team, Harvey Elliott in the team, those sort of players who when it comes down to it at the end of the season, they might be the players who you might be rolling the dice on for some reason to get them in the team. So I think it'd be interesting to see how we manage that. But we will look ahead to that later. So what have we got coming up on today's pod? We've going to have a little look at a little bit more of the news for what's happening for Liverpool. We'll look back at that Newcastle win, what a win it was, 2-0. Got some fan questions from you guys as well, so we'll definitely go through them. We'll do that every week. We'll look ahead to the big Champions League game on Thursday, PSG. I think it's going to be a tough game. And then I thought maybe we'd do a bit of trivia at the end. Why not? Bit fun. News from the club this week that we made a £57 million loss, which is sort of unbelievable when you think of the amount of money that the club make. They were talking that it's because we weren't in the Champions League last season, so the club lost out on a lot of revenue potential. And it sort of it got me thinking, it's interesting because I'm definitely in the boat of people that says, look, Mo Salah's been amazing, give him the contract he wants. Van Dijk's been amazing, give him the contract he wants. I think Trent, still, his best is still to come, you know, and I think give him a great contract. But when you look at that £57 million loss, it makes you think that, you know what, we're 2 bad seasons away from being in a bit of trouble, actually. You know, and we always look at the transfer window. We always look at the transfer window and say, well, we've spent this much money and other teams spent that much money, and surely there must be a bit more money in the kitty, and FSG don't want to spend the money. But when you look at it from this perspective, I think it's a little bit frightening. I think, you know, if next season, say we don't finish in the Champions League, and then the next year we don't, before you know it, you're going to have to start getting those sort of bigger earners off your books. Because what we know about FSG is that they won't do it. They just won't. They won't dip into their own pocket as much as they can. So we'll see what happens with that. The new Jurgen Klopp documentary came out on Friday. I'm recording this on Tuesday. I haven't seen it yet. It's on Amazon Prime, I think, which I think is the only streaming service that we haven't got, to be fair. We've got everything else. I will watch it, and I was actually talking to Jack, my brother, who was on last week, talking about doing a review. So let us know if that's something you'd be interested in. We'll do like a special episode where we'll watch it and then we'll talk about it. Obviously, that's what a review is. But from what I've heard so far, it's been unbelievable feedback for it. And I'll be honest with you, I never watched the last game of the season with Klopp and the big Klopp goodbye. It was a bit much for me. So I haven't even watched that. So how I'll stand up watching, I think it's a 4-part documentary series, I don't know yet, but I'll let you know. I'll be in tears probably. Matt Beard also left the club this week. He was the women's manager, and from what I've seen from him, he looked like a really nice fella. So good luck to him in the future. Let's talk about the Newcastle win, because we spoke last week, me and Jack spoke about how professional we were against Manchester City. We sort of managed the game, dominated the game. You know, they had a lot of the ball at times, but never really threatened. And it wasn't quite the same against Newcastle. Wilson got in a few chances, but I just thought that we turned up to get the job done, you know, and I think now we're starting to see those clean sheets are coming back in, where there was a period there, wasn't there, Reds, where we hadn't quite had a clean sheet in a little bit of a while. The fans were unbelievable, and to be honest, it was one of them games that I was just so jealous of me mates back home who were there. No Heineken this week, Reds, green tea, peppermint tea. And just seeing those fans in that stadium off the back of that City win, they believe it's done. Those fans in the stadium believe it's done. And they were just brilliant. Every video I've seen from the ground was unbelievable. Last week we spoke about Szoboszlai and how well he was doing. He scored his 4th league goal last week against Manchester City, and he came in and scored his 5th against Newcastle. And again, it was another left foot shot, which was something that we spoke about, scoring with his left foot for a right-footed player. McAllister obviously got on the score sheet as well. A great assist from Mo Salah. Both assists were great. The other as well from Louis, wasn't it? Louis Diaz. And it got me thinking really about the midfield, because a lot does get made about the front. Oh, it's always the front three with Liverpool. It's just the way it's been since Jurgen Klopp, really. The front three, and then all the focus is on Mo Salah. And I was looking at the midfield because I was sort of thinking, who scored what? How many goals from midfield this season? Like how influential have we been? Szoboszlai in all competitions has got 7, which, to be honest, he's playing that higher role. You'd expect goals, wouldn't you? I'd hope for more, but he's doing all right. He's doing well. I'm on the bandwagon. I'm on there. Don't worry. McAllister, he scored 5. Curtis Jones 3, and Harvey Elliott 3. And considering Harvey's hardly played, that's not bad at all, is it? I think he got a couple in the. I think he got 2 in Europe, 1 in the League Cup. And that got me thinking, where does that sort of set Liverpool up against some of the other top teams in Europe at the minute? So of the top 5 teams whose midfielders contribute, Liverpool are top of that list at the moment. Liverpool, Barcelona, Manchester City, Bayern Munich, and Paris Saint-Germain. We've got 18 goals there, 24 assists, and 42 combined goal involvements in all competitions. Barcelona are the nearest team with 35. So seven goal involvements is a lot, obviously. You know what I mean? That could be 6 points, 9 points in the Premier League. And interestingly as well, Paris Saint-Germain coming in 5th. And obviously we've got a big game coming up against them. They've got 33 goal involvements. And they've got some good players there. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. 13 points clear. The Reds are unbelievable. Get your planes booked. I was talking to a lad in the... What chat was he in now? I think he was in the Newcastle Supporters Club. It was the Newcastle Supporters Club, and he was asking after tickets. And I said, I'll ask the question, but the chances of you getting a ticket, it's like rock and roll shit, isn't it? Let's be honest. But I'll ask the question for the guy, like, we'll see what happens with that. And I did get a lovely message, actually, before we get on to this next section, from Ivan from Newcastle, who said he listened to the pod last week, mowing the garden. So if we can get more people like him mowing the garden to Reds Down Under, I'll just be as happy as Larry. Every week we're definitely gonna look at fan questions. That's the whole point of the show, really, is that we come on, we'll have people on every week, we'll have guests. It won't be me on my own very often. We'll have guests, and then you send in your questions, or you'll be on the show and you'll put forward what you want to put forward. So put on Instagram at Reds Down Under podcast this week. Send us some questions, and we got some good ones. Good one from Alex came in from Brisbane. Best European away. There's a few. I'm quite lucky that I've been to some cracking European aways with Liverpool. It's sort of split. I went to Barcelona for the 2007 game against Barcelona in the Nou Camp. I'm trying to think of what it was. Was it the quarters? Or was it that knockout round? Last 16 rounds, or whatever they call it. Reds, one of yous will know. But we went to the Nou Camp. We had that white and green strip. John Anarisa and Craig Bellamy had a fight with a golf club. And anyway, we went to Nou Camp, and it was unbelievable. Like, to go to Nou Camp the way it was then, you know, Barcelona had an unbelievable team. And we were... So I was 17, and we were walking down from the Boozer down towards the Nou Camp, and the next thing out of nowhere, these two fellas came. Like, well, not two fellas, more than two fellas, but these fellas came and put 2 barriers down in front of us. And out of nowhere, the Barcelona team just walked past us, and they were all there: Messi, Ronaldinho, Puyol, Valdez, Deco, like every one of them, all just walked past us. And I was like, that's fucking nuts. That is nuts. Like, they were so close, like the camera is to me. And then we got into the ground, but me and me dad, I went with me dad. We were at the top near the Liverpool fans, right in the gods. But we were actually in the home end. and Barcelona were winning 1-0, whatever. Deco scored a header, I think. Anyway, the Liverpool lads dragged me and my dad up, pulled us up into the away end, and that's where we watched the rest of the game. Craig Bellamy scored, and then late on, John Anarisa scored with his right foot, which is just a rarity in itself. And the atmosphere was just bouncing. So Barcelona, that's got a special place in my heart. And if we're not sort of counting European finals, Bayern Munich. Me and my mate Adam went to Munich, and we drew 0-0 in the first leg against Bayern. And you'll remember it, it's 2019, because Kimmich was being all mouthy. Remember that? And then we went away, and like, we were on the piss all day. Absolutely all day we were on the piss. We flew into Munich that day, and then we went to the Allianz, and the stadium's probably the best stadium I've ever been to. Like, it's a beautiful stadium, and but the only thing is you couldn't buy beer in the ground. That was the only downside to the stadium. The away fans couldn't buy beer, so we're watching the game, and this German guy, like, there's like netting separating the Liverpool and the Bayern fans, and the German guy, I won't do the accent because I don't want to get cancelled this quick, but the guy was like, oh, if you want beer, real beer, come through this way and you can go to the bar. So that's what we were all doing. Basically, we were all sneaking into the Bayern end, coming back with like loads of beers. But I went down there to get beers, and Mane scored that goal where he swiveled Neuer and like chipped it in. I missed that goal, which was the goal of the game and one of the goals of the competition. So yeah, like being in Munich, me and Adam, we were in the beer hall. They wanted to they tried to well, they did. They stopped serving beer in the beer hall because the fans were too loud. They were like, no, we're not having any more of this. And yeah, so then we had to go to another pub, and we went in and we didn't think much of it. People were wearing red in there, and we were like, yeah, whatever. And then we realised it was a Bayern pub, and it was like a Bayern pub, like proper, probably like Ultras. But they were sound, they were fine. We didn't have any problems with them. I'll tell you about Ultras later for PSG. Next question, I hope that answered it clear enough for you, Alex. Courtney, sorry, I think I'm dying. Courtney, who did our logo, said, what's the best chant? And I was thinking about this. So I'm going to separate like song and chant, because obviously you've got You Never Walk Alone, which is just the GOAT. And then Fields of Anfield Road, Poor Scouser Tommy, they're more like songs. But for me, for the reason of how good it was to have a player that good when we were fairly average for a long time, the Torres song was unbelievable. Like, I don't know a Liverpool fan who didn't love that song. And when you were in the ground, you just there, we're going to bounce in a minute, and then they do the Torres song. And it was just the best thing ever. And it just sort of rolled. So you'd be singing the Torres song for like 10 minutes. And then it'd go quiet a little bit. You'd hear a little bit of Stevie Gerrard or whatever, and we'd come back. So for that reason, and to be honest, it was Jack's favourite player at the time, I'll have to go the Fernando Torres bounce song as the best chant. Although Ale Ale is amazing. What else is amazing? They're all pretty good, aren't they? The Luis Diaz one is probably the best one at the minute. I think that's sort of summing it up. And the Argentine, McAllister, boss. We've got the best fans in the world, so we've got the best chance, haven't we? Jack asks what the best You Never Walk Alone I've ever witnessed was. So I think for being in the ground, I think Barcelona semi-final at Anfield was special. Like, there was a genuine feeling like something was going to happen. And it did. and it was just unbelievable. It was like true belief. You know, I think it was 55,000 fans at the time. It was true belief. Also, actually, we lost the league that year, but the Gerrard slip, that game, 2014, against Chelsea at Anfield, Gerrard slipped, and Demba Ba scored. But that You'll Never Walk Alone before that game was unbelievable, really good. The You Never Walk Alone again against Chelsea in 2007 was unbelievable in the Champions League semi-final. And we beat them. We went through, played in Athens. But for games I've never been to, but watched, obviously Istanbul, half-time, You Never Walk Alone, just completely changes the whole game, I think. The Chelsea semi-final, 2005, to get to Istanbul, was unbelievable. And the one at the MCG, where Liverpool played Melbourne Victory. It was Melbourne Victory, I think. And the MCG singing You Never Walk Alone. Like, watch it on YouTube. If you've never seen it, watch it on YouTube. It's one of the best You Never Walk Alones I've ever seen. So that is that for questions this week. Send them in if you've got any, and I'll answer them. And they can be stupid if you want. I'm sure some people will stitch me up. And maybe one day we'll get to the reason why my nickname back going the game is the Purse. All right. So we play PSG on the 6th of March in the Champions League. And I wouldn't say I'm worried about this game, but I think it's definitely potentially something that is going to be a massive challenge for us, I think. I mean, obviously it's over 2 legs, but I was looking up on PSG. Obviously we spoke about their midfield and their impressive numbers that they bring. But so far in the league, I think, in the league, they're 36 consecutive games without a loss away from home. And they have been beaten in the Champions League this season. I think they came 15th in the group, in the league table. But 36 games without a loss away from home says a lot about a football team, I think. And look, they're obviously they're the best team by far in that league. I think they're like, I haven't got it in front of me, but I think they're like 18 points clear of Marseille, who are their biggest rivals at the moment. And to go away from home week after week, you know, there's some amazing atmospheres there. Sorry. I am literally dying in front of you on the podcast. There's some tough places to go. Marseille, tough place to go. Lyon, tough. You know, there's difficult places to go there, and they've done really well with it. And they're only 2 off AC Milan's record of 38, which was between 91 and 93 as a European record. So, you know, the idea of them coming to Anfield and, we'll turn them over at Anfield no matter what happens in Paris might not be so simple. They smashed Brest in the knockout round to get to this game 10-0. So they've definitely got a goal or two in them. But I just think that if we play our game against these over the 2 legs, I think we'll have too much for them. I think we should overpower them. I think we should control a lot of the ball. And I think, you know, even though I did say, you know, just because it's at Anfield, it doesn't mean it's a foregone conclusion over the 2 legs, you know, the Anfield game. But the Anfield game could make the difference there. Because going away to Paris, they'll have a great atmosphere there as well. So I think we're going to have to turn up. And I think because we can maybe rotate in the Premier League as well, against Southampton a couple of days later, I think this will be the focus of Arne Slot. He will want to get a good first result in this game. And I think if we have a good performance in the first leg, we will overpower them in the two. But you never know what can happen. We could go 2 goals down, and then the second leg is a bit of a challenge, isn't it? Before we move on, I need to tell you this story about PSG. So, I think it was 2019 as well, which was the year I left, actually. I had a good year going the game that year. We played PSG in the group at the Champions League, and I think it was the group. I think it was. And anyway, they came to Anfield, and we were winning 2-0. And they pulled it back to 2-2, and then Bobby scored an absolute cracker. We won the game 3-2. Anyway, we're coming out the ground, me and Adam, and we're walking. So you've got to walk from the ground. You walk past the King Harry, and then you keep walking down to like the train station, Kirkdale, or wherever you want to go. And so we're walking down to the King Harry, and we hear like this like ruckus behind us. Like, what the fuck's going on? It was the PSG Ultras getting out the ground and just basically like smashing stuff up in the street. And we literally just stepped inside the pub, and next thing out of nowhere, like these like riot busies come and police come and shut the door, horses and everything. Like, what the fuck's going on? And we were in the pub, locked in the pub, and they're like smashing on the doors trying to get to us. And then there's lads in the pub trying to get out to fight them. I was happy in the pub, to be honest with you, having a pint. I didn't want anything to do with it. Anyway, we come out. They let us out like half an hour later. Most of the fans are gone. And me and Adam were walking down. We see a couple of these PSG lads, obviously looking lost, and to be honest, looking like fucking shit scared that they're in the wrong place. So I went over and went, all right, mate, where are you trying to get? Trying to get into the city? And he said, yeah. And I said, yeah, okay, look, I'll get you a taxi. So I got him a taxi, and he said, take me scarf. And he gave me a scarf. So I was like, yeah, no worries. And then when I got home, I realised it's a PSG Ultras scarf, which is back in my nan's at the moment. And I was thinking, you're only supposed to have this scarf if you've fought an Ultra and took it off him. It's like a trophy, I think. So I don't know. It's arguable I'm the only Scouser in Liverpool who's got a PSG Ultra scarf, but I can't be sure of it. So that was my PSG story. And after the PSG game, we play Southampton back in the Premier League. Look, we've got to turn them over. We've got to absolutely turn them over. They've only scored 19 goals this season in the Premier League. 19 goals. Mo Salah's on, 25 on his own. And I like Southampton. They're a nice club. Like, look at all the players that we've had from them in, down the years. Lambert, Lallana, Lovren, Klein, Van Dijk. They're a nice club, but they're in a lot of trouble. And they're obviously going to go down. It'd be nice to see them come back up a little bit stronger, but it should be a banker. I do think we should rotate as well where we can. There's players who've got a lot of minutes in the legs. Kanate's got a lot of minutes in his legs. Gravenberg as well. And I don't think Mo Salah would particularly want to not play. I think he wants to play every game he can. But it maybe wouldn't be the worst idea to put Mo Salah on the bench, depending on what that result is against PSG in the first leg. But I think if we go and beat PSG 3-0 in the first leg, Salah definitely plays. Salah definitely plays in the Southampton game and maybe gets rested in the second Champions League game, where you think you definitely win from that position. But I do think an opportunity to rotate the squad would be brilliant, because it's been a long season already. We've been in the 4 competitions. We've got the League Cup final coming up, which we need players for. We went out the FA Cup early against Plymouth, But we won't talk about that because we weren't doing the podcast then, so that result doesn't exist, to be honest with you. And then obviously we're in the Champions League. I do think in years gone by, under Jurgen Klopp, we've been fatigued when we get to the last game of the season. And that's not a criticism on Jurgen Klopp, because that's the way he liked to play his football. But I do think, in Kiev, it was a game too many. In Paris, it felt like it was a game too many when we got beat by Real Madrid. So I think any chance you can get to rotate the squad, that'd be the thing to do. Right, Reds, get your pens out. We're going to do a quick trivia for you. People just like these trivias. I asked people I know, should I do the trivias? And they were like, yeah, 100%. So I'm going to do it. I'm not going to give you that long. I'm going to give you a couple of seconds to think of your answer. Either write it down in your phone or shout it out to your mate who's doing the garden with you or whatever. Or just say it inside your head, just so you know you've said it. And let me know underneath how many of these Liverpool trivia questions you get. So question number 1, when Liverpool played in Sydney in 2017, which former LFC captain made a special guest appearance for the team? You got to get that. It's a question about Australia. Come on, Reds. All right, it's not Emlyn Hughes. There's the clue. Which Premier League club did Craig Johnson support as a child before joining Liverpool? I didn't know this. The internet told me. Craig Johnson, legend. Met Craig Johnson. John Barnes did a thing where he went round Australia and talked about his career and that, and Craig Johnson just turned up. Boss. Brilliant. Got a photo with him. Probably put it up, actually, if I remember, on socials. Who did he support? And next question. Which Liverpool goalkeeper played for Perth Glory late in his career? I didn't know this before I found the question, but I think I would have guessed it. You know what I mean? Who was the club captain immediately before Steven Gerrard? Which I think was 2003. It's a bit of a thinker, that one, I think. And who scored the winning goal when Liverpool won in the Camp Nou 2-1 against Barcelona in 2007? We were talking about that game earlier. If you were listening, you'll get that one. All right, let's do the answers. When Liverpool played in Sydney 2017, which former Liverpool captain made a special appearance for the team? Stevie Gerrard did that, came over, turned up, people loved it. My mum and dad went that game, I think. I think they did. Which Premier League club did Craig Johnson support as a child before joining Liverpool? Newcastle United, apparently. Which Liverpool goalkeeper played for Perth Glory late in his career? Brad Jones. Brad Jones played a cracking semi-final against Everton in the FA Cup in 2012. Was it? 2012 under Kenny Dalglish. Yeah, he was brilliant. We beat the ton. It was great. Who was club captain immediately before Steven Gerrard? It was Sammy Houpier. And who scored the winning goal when Liverpool won in the Nou Camp 2-1 against Barca in 2007? It was John Anarisa. What a legend John Anarisa is, by the way. So, guys, we've drifted on into what is the absolute abyss of the podcast. Thank you so much for sitting here with me and listening to me basically just talk at you for however long this has been. If you are enjoying the podcast, please do give us a like and a subscribe and all that sort of stuff. And if you've got any Reds mates, which we all do, I'm sure there's plenty of us out there, send them the pod. They might like it. If they don't like it, that's all right. But it'd be good if you can send it to them as well. Next week, we are going to have a guest. It looks like it's going to be John Sharkey, who is a musician friend of mine. He is from Philadelphia in America, but he lives in Canberra, and he's a massive Red. And it's the international break as well. As long as I'm not getting my weeks messed up. I think so. And we're going to talk all things Liverpool, growing up in America, becoming a Liverpool fan from over there, and then moving here in Australia and continuing that love for the Reds. We are 13 points clear. Every time I speak to you, we seem to open the gap in the Premier League. Thank you very much, Reds, and have a boss week.
We are the Reds down under, and this is our podcast.